Hey guys, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by our store. If you haven't checked out our store, this is how we keep the podcast free, and this is how we continue to do our show that's free and available for everybody out there. And I've added some new products. The most recent product is the PEMF machine from Truly Heal from our good friend Marcus Freudenman. He was on episode 490. We've also got oxygen concentrators. We've got the raw fermentation course, the accelerated scalar silver that we got turned on to from our friend and former guest Ken Rolla, as well as the Allertrex lung cleanse. We've got the Magnetico sleep pads, the scalar energy rest shields, the beta glucan from Better Way Health. We've got some really cool stuff in our store. So if you haven't checked it out lately, go check it out. And if you're ever in the market to purchase something, check out our store first to see if we offer it. And this show is also brought to you by Amazon.com. Thank you guys so much for your support on Amazon. We really appreciate it. That helps keep this show free too. And if you are an avid purchaser on Amazon, we've created a really cool thing on our website. If you go to extremehealthradio.com, and then on the right-hand side, there would be an Amazon banner, but below that is some text on the sidebar that says, click and drag me to your desktop. And if you do that, it'll create a little icon right there on your desktop. And if you use that icon every time you make a purchase on Amazon, it'll just open up Amazon.com through our link. And that is a great way to support the show. And we thank you guys so much for your support on Amazon. It really helps us a lot. So thank you for that. All right, guys, thanks so much. And let's get on with this episode with Mr. Adam Bergstrom. All right, thanks everyone for joining us on another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. We had some technical issues before this show. Technology and everything. We're so connected to technology these days. It's amazing how we cannot just live without technology. But if it weren't for technology, we wouldn't be able to do this show. But man, we have some real technical issues going on over here. Glad to finally be beyond that. Hopefully it works for the rest of this show. Today we have Adam Bergstrom on the show again, a regular guest. Love him so much. He's a fan favorite, popular guy. He's been on, golly, how many shows has he been on here? 484, 471, 450, the list goes on. And we love him. He's got so many great things to say. And just in case you are wondering, we do shows 3 days a week on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, and we are back. So thanks for the patience with the shows and our technical issues going on over here. We appreciate that. Adam Bergstrom, for those who don't know, is a guy who is into timing, and his website's called solartiming.com. He talks about timing, longevity, and his other website is Solar Nutrition. He's got a really cool app on that you can get on your phone, and he talks more about when you eat your food is more important than what you eat. And it's just incredible, interesting information that you probably will never hear anywhere else, really. And he's been at this for about 50 years, teaching, and he's done everything from chronobiology to reflexology to slit lamp iridology, meditation. Has been working with people since the early 70s, so on a number of different things, counseling people and so forth. So we're honored to have him back on the show. Good friend of the show. Hello, Adam. How are you doing today?
Really good. Gentlemen, start your enzymes. The yes, no, maybe guy is in the house.
Yes, no, maybe. It's so funny. That seems to come up so much when I see, I just see so many people talking about different things. We'll get questions from people, and they'll say, should I buy the near-infrared sauna or should I buy the far-infrared sauna? Sometimes you can buy both or buy a different kind. There's always a maybe option, isn't there?
Yep, and you can also buy a chicken brooding light as a third option.
There you go, right?
All three have their advantages. Near-infrared works on certain brain functions. Far-infrared works on pheromones. And red light works on wound healing and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, I've got one of those chicken lights. And I've been using it on my face in the evening before bed, and it feels really good. I like it.
It's a good time. Even better, there's a timing for red light in the morning at stomach time between 7 to 9.
Stomach time from 7 to 9, and that would be for any part of the body?
Any part of the body, yep. Red light therapy works better at that time because it turns out some people, if the red light is bright, actually it does change their circadian timing. You know, we just hear that blue light does, but red light can do it. They've done tests, and every once in a while, maybe as much as 1/10 of people do get their timing changed with red light, bright red light.
Wow. So those chicken brooder lights, would those be considered bright red lights or just?
They would be considered bright because normally they used to use red light for smallpox with success. You wouldn't separate if you put it on. And so it can be used for measles, chicken pox, mumps, all of those. And it's much milder by just staying in a very dim, you know, even a 7-watt Christmas bulb, really dim light, and maybe only using candle light to eat your meals. And then you have much milder cases of measles, mumps, and chickenpox, and smallpox is what they used it for thousands of years.
Wow. So they would just apply the red light directly to the chickenpox or to the people that had it?
No, the idea was basically to stay in the dark with only red light because the smallpox does not get activated by red light. Other lights actually activate problems. Like if a person eats buckwheat sprouts and they have a yellow light, they're in trouble. It activates skin problems from buckwheat and from St. John's wort.
Really?
They don't react to ultraviolet. They react to yellow. And many times, different conditions react to different colored lights. But red light is one of the safest ones for clearing up wounds, for preventing smallpox, and for not resetting circadian rhythms at night, and most importantly, for building the liver.
So red light over the liver. You know what I was thinking, too? It might be kind of a good idea to put, because this near-infrared that we have, the chicken brooder light, obviously puts off heat. And I thought, I wonder if it would be a good idea to put a little bit of castor oil over the liver and stand in front of that red light.
Could be. Yep.
Huh.
Red light, it works on a frequency of between 600 and 700 as an operant wound healing.
Okay.
And then also you get a frequency about 810. As I understand it, a chicken brooding light goes between, say, 590, maybe starts there and goes all the way up past 810 to 950. So they find out that you're limited with a laser because you only use 1 nanometer of bandwidth. While with something like a chicken brooding light, you're catching everything between 590 and 950.
Oh, that's interesting. What are your thoughts about like the blue light? A lot of people are. It's very controversial, the blue light thing, because people will say that there's these little full spectrum blue lights that you can get on Amazon that people that do all the biohacking and things like that, they'll talk about how you could use that like maybe first thing in the morning or maybe in mid-afternoon when there actually is blue light in the atmosphere in case someone's stuck inside in an office or something like that. But what are your thoughts about using blue light in that way? Is that good, do you think?
It's the high noon color, most ideal between 11:30 and 12, and that's the best time to get vitamin D by getting your vitamin D, which is carried on the blue frequency. So blue at night, we're not used to it. We have built fires for centuries upon centuries. And because of that, there's no blue light in firelight or in candlelight. It's all in the yellow and the orange and the reddish spectrum. And so we're just not accustomed to it. So it is a real time changer. It's like changing your clock. So that's why blue light is harmful. Now, it's best to have your flux program on your computer on all the time, though, because blue light is harmful by itself. When you're out in the sunlight at noon, you not only get blue light, but 40% of the radiation you get is near infrared. 40%. And that protects you against the blue light. And furthermore, you just close your eyes, and what do you see? Red through your eyelids.
Yeah.
So that protects you and actually can heal the sunburn.
Now, that's fascinating what you said about the Flux program, because we did a show a while back with Dr. Jack Cruz, and he was saying the same thing, because it was always my understanding that, you know, blue light coming from computer screens is okay as long as it's during the middle of the day and you're working and it's not after the sunset. But then he was saying, he said a couple things that it sounds like you're saying the same thing. He was saying that you want to use your Flux during the day as well, but then also he said that Flux only at night is not enough. So I've been using the Flux at night along with my orange glasses if I do work on the computer. But like right now I have let me look at my Flux settings. I have my Flux settings at, it's middle of the day, and I don't know anything really about the Kelvin. You probably do. Right now I'm on, I think, incandescent 2700 Kelvin. Is that right?
I know they measure that, and it changes according to Flux programs or other programs. I think they have Kelvin changing programs, and that kind of blue light.
Oh, really?
As bright like that is, yeah, they actually have programs that change that. I don't know if it's Apple that does that or who does that. But bright blue light by itself is not really a benefit unless you're doing it for certain therapies. Now, blue light can be directed at certain parts of your body, as Dinshaw Gadiali did it, and the old-time naturopaths would put a magnifying glass with blue light and actually get rid of moles and warts and things.
Oh, really? So the glass in the magnifying glass was blue?
They would, but I'd be careful with blue light because, see, a person, if they have a faulty liver, the sun becomes toxic to them. That's why you see all the arguments about going out in the sun or not. If you have a toxic liver, then you better be careful out in the sun because you get what's called secondary phototoxicity. First toxicity is eating certain foods like I mentioned, buckwheat or St. John's wort, or the people who put grapefruit oil on their neck, and then they break out in a very deep burn at that area. Bergamot, lime, those activate the sun. Now, secondary, we have a waste product from cholesterol that needs to be eliminated. And if you can't eliminate that, then you burn from the cholesterol. I mean from the chlorophyll, the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll actually emits infrared radiation, as anybody who does infrared photography will take a picture of a tree, and it turns out bright white.
Wait a second. So how does the cholesterol and the chlorophyll in the body?
The chlorophyll. I said I got my cholesterol and chlorophyll confused there.
Okay.
It's the chlorophyll that actually is toxic to people who have a toxic liver. So anyone that has a liver problem better be careful about going to the beach. You know how people say, well, before I used to tan really well, and now I'm not tanning as well.
Yeah,
that's because of their liver is not allowing them to tan.
It's so interesting because my dad has that sort of thing where he's got some liver spots, they call them, on his skin, but then he used to tan a lot better now, and so there's probably an issue with his liver then.
Lipofuscinosis, yep. A lot of too many polyunsaturated fatty acids can cause that, and also emotional problems. Like if you're restrained, they've done this to animals, restrain an animal so they can't go anyplace, and they get lipofuscinosis. Their body starts to age automatically from restraint. Now, take a school classroom and see why so many people are getting lipofuscinosis and aging quicker than they should.
Because they're restrained. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah, people at one time, they don't like to tell you this, used to live to 150. Now, I'm talking about the rare ones who escaped cholera, smallpox, the plague, everything like that. Definitely people died from that. But if you avoided those, you could live to 150. There's many documented cases of that, which doctors refuse to acknowledge. I think they give credit for 123 years old as the oldest one.
The oldest.
Master Chen, someone I study with, actually has a guru that made it to 130.
130. What are your thoughts about people that are in jail? I'm always fascinated by people that are in jail and they live so long, some of them. It's absolutely crazy to me.
Sometimes if you don't have any responsibility, a lot of over-responsibility in our culture kills people. You know, isn't it interesting how, ever notice how there's no old people at longevity conventions?
I know. I've noticed that, yeah.
All there is young people talking about genes, yeast, and lab rats instead of looking at old people.
Yeah.
Like here in Montecito, we have Kirk Douglas. He's 100 years old. No one seems to ask him what the heck he's eating or inquires about his connection with Gypsy Boots, the health food guru, and that he eats similar to Gypsy Boots. His wife, by the way, is 97, 98, something like that.
Wow. How's he doing?
Still healthy. Oh, healthy.
Yeah?
He just had his 100th birthday party here a couple of months back. Walked in, walked out, perfectly fine, you know. Wow. There's also a director. His name escapes me. He's 104, still directing movies.
Wow.
Those are the people that need to be asked, what the heck are you eating?
Yeah, these people should be at those conferences.
They should be, but they're not invited because they're embarrassing to some of their theories. I mean, if you invited Hugh Hefner and found out that he was drinking 30 Pepsi-Colas a day, it kind of does something to our aging theories.
Well, there was that interesting, I was reading something on Wikipedia a while back, and there was this lady that, I think the oldest lady in France or something like that, and part of her diet was, I think, coffee and wine and, oh, can you hear me still, Adam? Adam, can you hear me? Okay, so before we were so rudely interrupted by Skype and my computer, I think we're talking about longevity, and I was bringing up that lady in France, and a big part of her diet, I think she lived till she was 122, and I just pulled her up. Her name is Jean Calment, Calment, and a big part of her diet was like wine and chocolate, and she smokes cigarettes. It's pretty crazy.
A kilo of chocolate per week.
Is that what she said?
That's right. 2.2 pounds.
Oh, my goodness. 2.2 pounds of chocolate.
And, you know, there's someone here who lived to 103, Beatrice Wood. She said she owed her longevity to chocolate and young men.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
In fact, Vibrant Gal knew her. She used to be up in Ojai, and she was quite a fixture up there. She went up for the Vedanta people, or actually the Theosophy people.
Oh, yeah.
And she lived a long, healthy life.
So, chocolate and young men, isn't that funny? So, there's obviously something like you were talking before about feeling restrained, and if you're surrounding yourself with younger people, that's always a good thing, right?
It helps. Now, some people claim that you can drain younger people by doing that, and that supposedly Gandhi did it and things like that. But it's really hard to drain a person unless you emotionally drain them by being a downer around them. Then you do bring people down. You do lower their energy. And, of course, that's one reason they send us to school, to lower our energy. Be around dull people who are monotone, read dull history books or mathematics, and don't live. And they call a healthy person someone who has ADHD.
Someone with lots of energy.
We're designed to move around, not sit in rows like lemmings.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember you sent me a while back that really great interview with John Taylor Gatto. Do you remember that? Speaking of school.
Yep. He was the expert, is the expert on that. He's still alive. He's having some health problems, but we hope he'll be back soon.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy, and that interview was super long. But yeah, so you think part of what they're doing by sending kids to school is just lowering their energy?
Yep, they lower the energy and lower the mental. We have mental capacities beyond our imagination, but they limit our imagination, so then we don't have the mental qualities we were born with.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So you're saying that people that are older can sometimes be a drainage on people that are younger, and so how are they finding that? You mentioned Gandhi. How did they find that with him?
Well, they claim. In fact, I had a good friend from India. He said that in India, the man sleeps with his head to the feet of the woman, so they don't drain their energy. And a lot of that is superstition. Uh-huh. The only way you drain energy is being a drag around someone else, a wet blanket. That happens so many times. You say, I want to do this, and they say, oh, you can't do that. The economy is too bad. Or people don't do that. And then someone comes along and does it, But it's usually the person who is immune to that type of programming. And most people are not, as the people who give us our television ads and our brainwashing know.
Mm-hmm.
They've studied those things for a long time, and they keep that pretty much away from the public, how much they are being controlled and how easy it is to control the subconscious mind if you're caught unawares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's really like, it doesn't even have to be necessarily a downer energy. It could just be like just a different energy than you have. Because if you're around someone and you're finding that your personality and your emotional state is changing, that means that they're affecting you in some way that you wouldn't have been affected normally if you're just by yourself.
Yeah, we're really not a separate entity. We interface with people all the time and don't know it. Many of our thoughts are someone else's thoughts just browsing through us, and we think we have that random thought. That's why many people, you think of someone and the telephone rings and there they are. That's no accident.
Yeah, it happens a lot, doesn't it?
Rupert Sheldrake seems to have the best understanding of that, how that works. Dogs know when their owners are coming home in advance.
Yeah, so he talks about that morphogenic field. I haven't really looked into it too much, but what is he really talking about there, do you think?
Well, basically, we're connected. Swami Nitty-Gritty said that we don't astral project. We're already everywhere. We just identify with it. Like right now, if you can take a photograph of me from any angle at any time, from any distance if you have a powerful enough telescope. How did I get in the camera? They have all kinds of other explanations, but the real answer is I'm everywhere at once. My light vibration is traveling at 186,000 miles per second into outer space, and if I go there, I'll find myself. Well, they don't like to tell us that, so astral projection is not going anyplace. You're already there. You simply identify with your outgoing breath instead of your incoming breath. But because we're trained to identify with our incoming breath, we're trapped in our body.
How do you mean identify?
Well, we identify with being inside our body when we're really outside of our body, just as much. But we're not trained to be there. Now, every once in a while, a person has experience. Wow, I saw you walking down the stairs at 3 o'clock last afternoon. I was walking down the stairs. How did you know that? I don't know. It just came to me. Well, we get little bursts through. Usually, most people are allowed one burst per 90 minutes. There's actually a cosmic rule about that. And it's good to be aware of that because the 90 minutes doesn't happen evenly, linearly. In other words, you might have 2 in 5 minutes, and then you might have to wait 180 minutes.
So what do you mean by burst? Is that what you said?
Well, you get, in other words, many mystic experiences are like getting bonked on the head. And then you see these great things, and you come back and tell people, and they say, well, how do I get there? I don't know. I got bonked on the head, and then they bonked me on the head again and took me back. That's what a mystic experience is. But certain yogis and certain people who have trained themselves can actually do these kind of things. There was even a British officer who learned how to be buried under the ground for 7 days or longer without taking a breath.
Wow, what was his name?
Began with a C. I can send you the name. And see, in India, they used to have a lot of traveling yogis who would go around and be buried as much as 40 days without breathing. And of course, the British took this one guy at one point, and they thought it was ridiculous, and they didn't care if the guy died, so they challenged him. They buried him for an entire month, and it's well documented in the British books. I've actually got those documentations on SunSync, and I'll be glad to send you those.
So it's fascinating because it sounds like what you're saying. I mean, what you're saying would sound like just complete craziness to people who have never really looked into this stuff. But it sounds like what we're really told that we live off of and how life really is not at all how it actually is. Like we're living off something other than food and water, and it's something much deeper than what we even know, right?
Look at Mr. Eats All. He ate a Cessna. It took him 2 years to eat a Cessna. He ate shopping carts, razor blades, even a coffin.
Really?
Now, you're not supposed to do that. And he was digesting them. So much for people saying, oh, you can't digest the inorganic minerals in spring water.
All right.
Well, Mr. Eatsall could do it. And then look at Arrigo down in South America. He used a rusty penknife and cut thousands, well, maybe hundreds, of cataracts out of people's eyes with no anesthetic. Normally, you can't even touch the human eye without pain, and he was cutting them out with a penknife automatically with some kind of vibratory rate, whatever, numbing their eyes so he could do that. I even knew Henry Belk, who was one of the researchers on that project.
Wow. So
how do we explain that? It's because we're limited. We are hypnotized into a state very much like the Matrix. Look at Neo. He never dreamed that he had another body someplace else. Well, the truth is we have bodies on bodies on bodies wherever we want to go, only limited by our imagination. I am a genie is the word.
So are you in alignment with what is that spiritual path Ekankar, where it's there's layers or different levels and things? Is that what you're saying? Like we have different bodies on different layers or levels?
The yogis actually limit themselves often to the Kundalini force is all we hear about. That's the spinal force. The skin force or cosmodyne energy is what Ekankar.
Oh no. You stopped. Oh my goodness. Technology. What's happening? Let's see. Let me see here. Sorry about this, guys. Oh man, I cannot believe this technology is... so we brought Adam back on the show, but we're using the telephone, and so it's going to sound a little bit different. Golly, I don't know what to think of things like that, Adam. When things like this happen to you, do you take them as... Because we've been trying... I think we've tried 3 or 4 different times to do this show. We've been broken up by technology. And do you look at things like this and think the powers that be are trying to stop me, or I have something, there's something powerful that you and I are going to share today that we need to get out there? How do you look at these types of these weird roadblocks that happen in life?
The timing of the daily events of our life is the proof that creative consciousness is directing our existence. So a lot of times we do put out mental blocks for things, and sometimes there's reasons we shouldn't say something.
Mm-hmm.
I had an experience one time, and to show you how we're connected to other beings, or animals even, I was doing workshops up in Berkeley, and I'm doing the dishes after we ate, and I suddenly decided I wanted to tell the group something important that I had read, to read it to them. So there's a cat lying on the chair, and as soon as I turned around with the intent to read that, the cat opens his eyes wide, crouches, and glares at me like, "Don't you dare read that."
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, holy cow, what the heck is that? So I go back and wash the dishes, and then I look back, and the cat's lying in the chair. So I keep washing the dishes, and I say, by God, I'm going to read that. And the cat's eyes open, and he gets and looks at me again in the face like, "You dare read that, and I'm going to jump on you."
Oh, my goodness.
So what was that about? Now, I told the owner of the cat, and the owner said, "Oh, yeah, that's a people. That's not a cat."
Oh, wow.
I've communicated with him before. So, there's a lot of strange things in this universe, a lot of timing things, and usually I believe the timing is for our benefit in most cases. But it's a yes, no, maybe universe.
Yeah. So before the break, we were talking about Kundalini. That's what you were talking about. And I think that I forgot what I mentioned before that, but you're talking about Kundalini in the spine, I think it was.
Yes, and that's where we get so-called psychic powers. But there's other powers of synchronicity that are more powerful. In other words, with the true chakra system, which are called realms, and I'm not sure what they're called in Ekankar and Sant Mat. They have their own names. I believe Sri Yukteswar called them realms. And according to Swami Nitty-Gritty, the spine comes out of the spermal part of our body. We're connected with the sperm and the ovum. And the cosmodyne energy comes from the skull and the skin, which are connected. And that's the real chakra system, which starts in the center of your forehead at the 10,000 lotus position and goes all the way back to the medulla oblongata, which is the 8th chakra, and the one that, of course, controls our breathing, our appetite, and everything. It's basically the power station of our brain.
So one thing I've been thinking about lately is because we were just talking about before how, astral projection, in a sense that we're in multiple places at one time and existing in different planes and things. And I'm always curious because there are times in people's lives and in our lives where we seek out the advice of others because we are looking to find some sort of answer to an issue or a problem that we have. And we're trying to figure out, gosh, do I do this? Do I do that? Or maybe someone's just trying to figure something out from a technology perspective or something like that. But what it sounds like is that all of us know everything at all times, but we just fail to tap in and understand what that is. And so we know the answer, but we feel like we don't know because we haven't gone inward enough to understand what that answer is. Is that somewhat true, do you think?
Oh, it's very true. We're hypnotized to limit ourselves. It's all about limiting. As soon as you're born, you can do this and you can't do that, And the programming actually begins in the fetal level. That's why you can actually teach your baby a foreign language while they're still in the womb. And even you can train your sperm and the ova before they're released.
Wow.
So that gets pretty far out for most people, but there is evidence to support that. Not much. You have to search far and wide for it. But now, thanks to the Internet, we've practically got the Akashic record out there. If you go back especially into the older books and the older science where they actually experienced something, before they tapped and looked at the human body, and they didn't look at a blood test and tell you this is what it represents, instead of looking directly at the person's breathing rate, their pulse rate, their skin color, all that kind of thing.
So with situations like, for example, this is something I always think about because it's like a unsolved mystery even till this day, and that is the Great Pyramids of Egypt. I maintain and I think that we all know how they were built, but we don't. It's like intuitively it's there if we go in and tap into whatever energy that is. Like I feel like, however they built that, it's possible to know that, but we just, as long as we exist in the sort of surface level area of the mind and the mental state and the spiritual state, we'll never tap in deep enough to understand how they did it. But I feel like it's possible there's got to be someone on the planet that knows how those things were built.
They hypnotize people to do things that they couldn't do normally, and they go and do it. There's been people who know information. They've trained people. This is common in hypnosis back in the day, to see with their stomach and see through walls as well.
With their stomach?
Yep. If you do that, I have documented, I haven't released that as a book, but on Sun-Sync Nutrition, I went on a spiel about hypnosis and mesmerism. And they used to use operations. They had an entire hospital in India that just used hypnosis, both for the surgeries and also to cure many diseases directly by just suggestion. And many times they didn't even use suggestion. They knew that all you had to do is put a person in a mesmeric state, and then they would solve the problem for themselves and cure their own disease. So they didn't have suggestion. Now, hypnosis has been watered down, or mesmerism has been watered down to suggestion. In fact, before they used to mesmerize a glass of water, give it to a person, and then the person would be mesmerized from the glass of water. There's many documented cases of that, and now hypnotists totally have diluted mesmerism down to hypnosis will make you feel good about cancer, having it. But they'll never admit you could get rid of cancer by simply being hypnotized.
Oh, wow.
And here's the problem. You have to be hypnotized. The person who hypnotizes you must believe the story, too. If they don't believe the story, the hypnotized person will know it. As in the case of the boy who was turning to stone. He's still alive in San Francisco, by the way. And it's an incurable disease where there's no sweat pores. Well, this hypnotist in about 1952 hypnotized the boy to get rid of what he thought was a rash. And all of the skin pores came back. And so the boy's skin was so bad that he stunk up the place. He couldn't even go to school from it oozing because it would crack whenever he even bent an arm.
Oh, my God.
And he was cured. But then this disease could not be cured after when he found out it wasn't a rash. And so all these other people with the same disease called, and he couldn't help anyone, and he gave up hypnotism in frustration because he had been hypnotized to not believe it now, while before he thought it was something else.
Interesting. So it does depend on the role and what the belief systems are of the person doing the hypnotism.
Yes, that's why the most important card in the tarot is the Fool. He walks off the edge of the cliff, and he knows he's going to be okay. Unless you know that, though, as Swami Nitty Gritty asked a friend of mine, he said, "Sir, can you walk through that wall?" And my friend thought and said, "Yes, I think I can walk through that wall." Mm-hmm. And Swami Nitty Gritty said, "If you think you can walk through that wall, you're going to bump your nose. But if you know you can walk through that wall, you'll walk right through it."
Wow, it's like that scene in Harry Potter.
You know, there's a lot of truth. These movies are out there for a reason, to teach us. And many of the people involved have had certain experiences that make them produce movies like The Matrix and The 13th Floor and Dark City and Truman Story, etc.
Wow. My mom, back in, I think, 86 or 87, she had been smoking for, I think, probably 20, 30 years or something. And she started smoking really young as a child. And she had tried everything to stop smoking. And she went to a hypnotist, and it was sort of a suggestion from a friend as a last-ditch effort. And she didn't believe in hypnotism. And ever since then, she never picked up a cigarette and never even wanted to pick up a cigarette. Never had an inkling to do it, and it was just the most fascinating thing. And I remember her doing that, and I just thought as a child, wow, this is so crazy. How did this happen? And so somehow hypnotism is it tapping into the subconscious mind or the superconscious, or what's going on there, do you think?
All of the above. Yeah, we have now Swami Nitty Gritty warned about hypnosis because it bonds you with the person for the rest of your life who you're hypnotized to. Mm. But in the case of emergencies, and I would even consider smoking an emergency because it certainly doesn't do your lungs any favor. Mm-hmm. But if a person had cancer or anything like that, I would definitely be going to a hypnotist. Most people who get cured by cancer are cured by hypnosis anyway, because I've encountered over 2,000 cancer cures, all of them different from one another, and yet they get cured. You know, Nicholas Gonzalez was against Warburg. He said his work didn't work, and I'm sure Warburg would be against Gonzalez's method. Right. And yet they work.
Yeah. That's so bizarre, right? I mean...
And there's lots of other ones. One says eat no meat, one says eat all meat, one says that, and they get cured of cancer, so go figure.
Go figure. Yeah, it's such an interesting idea. So you're saying that we're all being hypnotized. I guess we are all being hypnotized, aren't we? I mean, every day in some weird way, by being programmed and listening to other people. I mean, could you consider that to be being hypnotized?
Yes. Sometimes it's like, look at Neo in The Matrix, right? At first, he wouldn't believe that there was a whole other world like that until he started seeing little coincidences, like a white rabbit on the shoulder of somebody when he had come across the idea of a white rabbit. Those little synchronicities that occur. That started happening to me as a child, where I noticed, this isn't linear. I didn't even know the terms linear versus cosmic at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Things started happening to me. I'd think of someone, the telephone would ring, and on it would go. One time I was hiking someplace, and I realized I had bit off more than I could chew. I was hiking 30 miles to my friend's house, and so I started going like, Jerry, come over the hill, come over the hill. He comes driving over the hill. I said, thank you. I called you. Did you hear me?
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of things happen like that. I've had many experiences like that. And other people, your listeners, I'm sure, can always find some mysterious happening that just didn't make sense, wasn't linear, didn't make any linear sense.
So you think that some of these movies that we're being exposed to coming out of Hollywood, like The Matrix and like, what was that other one, Harry Potter and things, and it's funny because religious people will say, well, those are all sort of demonic movies and things like that, but what you're saying is that sort of art is reflecting life a bit with those?
Yeah, they're getting these ideas from someplace, and eventually we're going to find the truth of our human brain and how we are limitless. At this point, the people who are in control, through fear, they want to keep us from being imaginative. Otherwise, they would have all the yachts and the goodies, right? Instead of the 1%. So they want to make sure that, if you knew that you didn't have to be the waiter or the busboy or the maid or the butler, and you could be the millionaire, how would they get their dinner served?
Right.
And actually, with imagination, we could basically have Santa Claus machines making anything. FM 2030, the future has predicted that.
Wow.
And now, with printers, we can print just about everything, 3D printers.
Wasn't there a famous quote by, was it Einstein, who said something like imagination is superior to education or something? Or
it is. Much more. And that's why the most creative people are the people who drop out of school. Buster Keaton had one day in school. He went in, and the teacher said, never come back again. Send a note back to his parents.
Oh, my gosh.
So I had no education. Sammy Davis Jr. didn't have a single day of education. And a lot of very famous people. Look at the Internet gurus. They didn't graduate from college. Here's Bill Gates promoting education, and he didn't even get a degree.
Yeah.
Neither did Steve Jobs, neither did a whole bunch of them.
It's fascinating.
And yet they're out there doing it.
I wrote an article a while back. I think it was about college and higher education, and there's a list that I put on there. It's on the website of all these people that just never finished, either didn't go to school at all or didn't finish college or any sort of higher education or were dropouts. I mean, the list of these incredible people, it goes on and on and on and on. It's just, it's pretty amazing, Starting
back with Cornelius Vanderbilt, J.D. Rockefeller, Morgan, they had like third grade educations.
Wow. So now in school, you were talking a second ago about imagination and things, and how, when kids are daydreaming, teachers try to snap them back and, focus, pay attention on what we're doing here in class. And in actuality, when a child is able to dream of new worlds and think of things in a new way and create stories and imaginary friends and all of this stuff, it seems to me from everything that we've talked about over the years and the totality of your work that in that state, it's almost like a meditative state, or there's some sort of maybe, child tapping into the Akashic records or something where that is a really powerful state, isn't it?
We have access to the Akashic records. And basically, when you program people that there is no such thing, then there isn't, because the person gets hypnotized. Notice a hypnotized person. You hypnotize them and say, as soon as you wake up, every time I say the word water, you're going to reach and scratch the top of your head 3 times and then blink at me. And they do it. So is it no accident that we do the same thing? And what hypnotizes a person the easiest is shock. If you're in trauma or in an unusual situation, it's so easy to hypnotize a person. That's why the Hare Krishna and people hang out at airports, because they know you're already in a confused state, and it's very easy to hypnotize a person and get them to do whatever you'd like.
That is interesting. I never thought of that. Yeah, you see them. That's where you see them in airports. That's so fascinating.
I saw a friend of mine. We went into an Italian grocery, and he ordered some olives. So the woman said, how many? And he said, all of them. And I saw her go into a hypnotic state. So she handed him the olives and everything, and as we walked out, I said, you hypnotized her. You could have asked her for the money in the cash register. She would have handed it to her. He said, what? What are you talking about? You put her, by saying that, she probably was new on the job, she went into shock, and she was hypnotized. In the same way, one of the greatest hypnotists of all time, Milton Erickson, was walking down the street, and he bumped into someone, and the person said, oh, excuse me. And Erickson looks at him and says very firmly, it's 1 o'clock, and put him in a hypnotic state.
Really? So what was about those words with that particular person, do you think?
Well, it's not the ordinary thing. So if you do something extraordinary around a person, you're likely to hypnotize them because it doesn't fit their hypnotic pattern. In other words, if you say hello to someone and they start doing a dance in front of you and do something completely different or off the wall, you're likely to be hypnotized at that point. And hypnotists know that. It's called confusion technique.
That's interesting.
Even standard hypnosis uses it.
I can't help but think.
It's a trance-like state.
Oh, sorry, what's that?
It's a trance-like state. We are all in a trance-like state from our educational program. And the whole thing of meditation is to break out of the trance-like state. You also have the choice of reprogramming yourself, but Swami Nitty-Gritty always taught us, why have any programming? Get rid of all the programming. That's the idea of meditation. Otherwise, it's programming, which is good. It's better to say you can't smoke rather than you can smoke. That's an example of programming. But you can go way beyond that, too.
It's interesting. Okay, so meditation is a way to break that trance-like state. Because it seems like a lot of people think, meditation of being in a trance, but I guess you're breaking free of the trance of just living in the, in the modern society.
Exactly. One time I was in Texas, and a friend of mine offered to pay me $400 to set me up in a massage school where I would pay the $2,500. And he was into prosperity, he still is, and he's very successful at it. But anyway, I said, if this crap really works, then I want to materialize $2,500. I want $2,100 for the school, paid in full, $300 to put in my bank account so I can start it without any money being involved, and $100 extra because when I get a check, I won't have one bounce. And he was a little miffed, and I went to his other house. He was very prosperous. And when I got there, I found a wrinkled-up envelope that had been wrinkled, I guess, by the post office when it went through their machinery. And I opened it up, and it was a check for $2,500.
Whoa.
So how is that explained? Anyway, I went to massage school.
Wow.
And I've had incidences happen like that, and I'm sure when I tell that story, I know someone else who had a $2,500 story too, and those things happen.
It's funny. I can't help but think in terms of like being hypnotized. Remember that scene? And I can't remember if it was in the first Star Wars movie, but it was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're flying in that little in the desert, and they're trying to get into, I think maybe to go to that cantina place, and the guards wouldn't let him in, and then he sort of waves his hand and tells them, I forget what his line was, but it was just really interesting. He kind of just put them in a hypnotic state and then was able to go right through. You bet. Swami Nitty-Gritty, once I saw him, and this sounds strange to word it this way, I saw him turn himself invisible for somebody else. They were right 2 feet away and couldn't see him, even though his girlfriend had her arm around him. She could recognize everybody in the building, but couldn't see him. And one of the people involved mentioned Adano's name, and he hit her on the head like, shh, because his name would give him away. Well, years later, I called this person on the phone, and I said, remember the time when you were having a fight with your boyfriend, and you saw Ginger, and you saw Melissa, and you saw, and Adano. Adano wasn't there. I said, yes, he was. Don't you think I would know if Adano was there? Took all of his workshops from him and everything? Of course he wasn't there. I said, well, he was. Wow. That's so
these things can be done. Now, what Adano said is he all you have to do is when the person pauses in the breath, you breathe. And when they breathe, you pause. And then you go invisible. he claimed that was what Christ did when they couldn't see him in the Bible, remember, after he was resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew those techniques, and he did it. I mean, my friend could not see him.
Wow, so even at the time, he couldn't see. Was your friend a woman or a man?
It was a woman.
It was a woman,
Yeah.
so she couldn't see him at the time.
Everybody else could see him, but she couldn't. And she was standing 3 feet away from him, talking to even Melissa, his girlfriend.
Oh my gosh! And could this woman hear his voice?
That's what he said. But when my other friend Ginger mentioned his name, he hit her on the head.
Oh my gosh!
So I assume that because he said sometimes the voice can give you away because the breathing technique is a visual technique. Though I'm sure he could have overcome that too. I saw him do what we would call miracles, which he said was not breaking physical laws, because if you try to break a physical law, you will break yourself against them, but you can bend them. And one of the reasons is when you go around a corner, you actually, if you hit the accelerator, you go up on the wall and you don't fall. So you're basically counteracting gravity with another law of centrifugal force. These various laws that you can follow explain these miracles, and as Nitty Gritty put it, a miracle is the cosmetics of the actual experience.
The miracle is the cosmetic.
Yep, so it's what we perceive as a miracle. Just like if we went back 1,000 years and brought a television set to the Romans, they'd probably put us on the stake and burn us as warlocks.
They probably would. When you were,
say, oh my God, it's Harry Potter.
oh man, when you were talking about Swami Nitty Gritty and becoming invisible, I was reminded of this verse years ago in the book of Hebrews in the Bible, and it says, because there's just a lot of weird things in this world, and this verse is bizarre as well. It says, do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Isn't that
very true? It gives me goosebumps because I've had experiences like that myself.
Yeah, because people
Some of
will.
the listeners may have too.
Yeah, like these people will come into your life and just for a brief instance, and all of a sudden they're gone, and there's no trace of them anymore. It's really bizarre.
Here's one example. I had a girlfriend, and she had rented a cabin up in Ojai, working for a Jungian psychologist. Mm-hmm. Big piece of property. Well, when I got up there, we met a new tenant who was also moving in a cottage about the equivalent of a city block away on this large piece of property. Mm-hmm. So we introduced ourselves. I got his name, and that was it. We went into the cottage we were staying in, and suddenly I remembered that my rent was due the next day, and I was $50 short for the rent, and here I was out in the woods. So I suddenly, for some reason, said, I don't have the rent. I'm $50 short. I'm going to let God pay the $50. And my girlfriend said, well, what are you going to do to earn the $50? Nothing. I'm out here in the woods with you. What can I do? It's God's responsibility to pay the $50.
Yeah.
And she said, well, that's crazy. What if you get kicked out? Well, then it's God's responsibility to take care of me because it's God's $50. For some reason, I was adamant about this.
Yeah.
So about 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. And it's this guy. Now, he was a block away, so he couldn't have heard the conversation. Anyway, we open the door, and he's holding up a $50 bill. And he looks past my girlfriend to me and says, this is your $50. And I must admit, I was even a little taken aback. But before I could say anything, he said, you do know what this is about, don't you? I said, I certainly do. I took the $50. I said, this will be put to good use. And then he told me, I studied with a Zen master up in Big Bear, California. And he gave me a Zen koan. Do you know what that is? And I said, yes. And he said, so I went and I meditated on it, and I left my body. And I thought, that must be the answer. So I went back to the Zen master and said, when he said, what is the answer to the koan? I left my body. And he said, get back into your body. That is not the answer.
Oh, my gosh.
So after all these years, I assumed that he had the ability to go out of his body, and that's how he found out about it. I have no idea, because I never saw him again. I forgot his name. I went and paid my $50 and got my rent paid just on time. Photo finish.
Never heard from him again, never talked to him, nothing?
Never. And my girlfriend lost a job. She was told that she could join a psychological group and she could say anything she wanted and would not be fired. So she said something and they fired her.
Wow. So in this case, like, what do you think is happening with this instance? If there's some truth to that verse about entertaining angels without knowing it, do you think that these are sort of beings that come in and out of existence and take some sort of human form just to teach us a lesson, and then they translate back into some other dimension or something?
Many of them are humans who are evolved past the state that we know human beings.
Oh, okay.
You could almost call them superhumans, transhumans, whatever you want to call them. O'Donnell said there were three states of us. It was animal or animal man. There was intellectual man, which most people are into. Mm-hmm. And then there was man. Now, intellectual man he called human and identified it with the hue or color, because all our psychological traumas come in color. That's why you have to be careful even with red light. If you have a red moving trauma, the red light will be counterproductive to your health.
Oh, I see.
So we have to go through the chakras, which are these colors. They're obviously in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Mm-hmm. These are the rainbow that we have to go through in our mind and solve those issues. And then we're free to see the white light and be all connected.
So we have the three instances of man: human, which is like HUE, right? Yeah,
HUE, and WHO. We identify with the who, like you're Justin and I'm Adam. And actually, we're a what. What are we is what we need to meditate on, not like Ramana Maharshi did and who am I? It's what am I is what we want to know.
And then so he said animan. Is that more like the animal?
Animal man, yeah, which in some ways is better, because intellectual man, usually fools himself about what he can do. Even animals can do more things than we can, in a lot of ways. Look at that cat. He was way ahead of me. He could read my mind.
I know. It's fascinating. Yeah, because it seems like
he relegated me to be in the dishwasher.
And making fun of you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, with the human today, we're very much, I think, tied into our intellect and our mental and our sort of yes, no, up, down, and society where everything is figured out, everything's scientific, but it's all based on the intellect, isn't it?
Stinking thinking is what it's been called.
Yeah. Yeah, we're dominated by
as we think, so are we, And as we perceive ourselves, instead of we can conceive ourselves, we can have our own birth into other abilities. As soon as we say the word can't, in fact, you better not say that word around Master Chen, because he hits you with a bamboo at that point. So can't and those type of names, those don't exist. And he, of course, did. Master Chen, you may or may not be familiar with. He'd be a good guest sometime. He's actually indulged in a 3-day sword fight where he didn't kill anybody.
He
escaping China, to come to the United States, where he worked. His first job was at McDonald's, and he was so good that they just hired him to replace 3 people and offered him the job of offering the first McDonald's, the super McDonald's in China, but he turned him down to teach Tai Chi.
Wow.
Now he has a center up in Colorado.
Yeah.
He's one of these supermen that knows how to do all these things, the astral project and whatnot. He's very low-key about it, but he's the real deal.
Wow. So there's the human, and then there's the animan, and then there's the sort of Superman. Is that the third?
The Superman, I guess you would call him, for lack of a better word. He's been called different things. Adano preferred to call him just plain man, M-A-N. Manifestation is where that comes from. Not woman or man, it's just manifestation is the word. So if you manifest, you can manifest anything you choose.
So Master Chen, he's in Colorado these days?
In Colorado. He has a center up there. Very unusual. I got to take about a month's worth of seminars with him, and he's the real deal, is all I can say.
Wow.
In fact, he knew things that Adano told me, Swami Nitty-Gritty told me personal. He knew. He knew what he'd told me.
Wow. I'm just looking up. It looks like his website is WUDANGTAO.
Wudang Mountain, yep.
Yeah, Wudang Dao, I guess it's called.
Wudang Dao.
WudangDao.com. Wow. So I wonder how old he is.
I would guess he's in his 40s now.
Master Chen? Is that right?
Yeah, I think I met him when he was in his late 30s.
Wow.
And I lived in a ranch way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and he ended up coming there and doing workshops. So I would be, people were paying several thousand for the workshops, and when I was just supposed to be handling the lights and stuff, and he said, Adam, you too. So there I was, running a mile and doing Qigong and Tai Chi and all kinds of things from 6 in the morning till midnight every day.
Oh my goodness! Wow! And this was in Texas at the time.
In Texas, and he'd do things like he said, "Okay, for the last night, we're not going to sleep at all. So if you want to go get some coffee." So we all drank and loaded up on coffee. He said, "Okay, now we're going to bed."
Oh my gosh! How funny!
A real trickster.
Yeah.
Funny guy. Really, he's an amazing human being.
Yeah, I'm looking at his website right now. It looks like a fascinating guy. Yeah, he doesn't look very old.
Nope. He's, he had a guru that was 130.
Wow.
A woman. And the story of her is they could make a movie out of it, actually. Very unusual.
Wow.
And they could easily make a movie out of it. He's a real-life kung fu hero, that you hear about.
Yeah, so what do you think it's causing someone like him or his guru to live so long? Do you think it's just tapping into that, what do you call it, cosmodyne energy? Is that what you said? What do you think?
Cosmodyne energy, which is a synchronous energy. In other words, we have the timing all around us that can do the same thing as the psychic power.
Mm-hmm.
And Nitty-Gritty used to tell the story, and the Buddha and his disciple came to the Buddha and his disciple came to a river, and they wanted to go across the river, and the riverman said, it costs a nickel. Oh, we don't have a nickel. So they stepped aside. A famous yogi came along and said, I'd like to go across the river. It costs a nickel. I don't have a nickel. So the yogi huffed and puffed, and he said, follow me to his disciple, and they walked across the river. So the Buddha's disciple said, well, what the heck? You're greater than that guy. Why aren't we walking across the river? He said, go earn the 5 cents, and then I'll tell you why. So he goes out, and he goes walking down the street, or down the road, and suddenly a tree falls in front of him. And he says, wow, I bet if I have an axe with me, I'll chop that wood up, and maybe I can sell it to someone. Mm-hmm. And then an old man just happens to come along and said, are you selling that firewood? Yeah, 1 nickel. I said, okay, I'll give it to you. So he goes back with the nickel. I go across the river. Just as the storm is coming in, they make it in the nick of time. And the disciple asked the Buddha, well, now why didn't we walk across the river? He said, how long do you think it took that yogi to learn that technique to walk across the river? Well, 14 years if he did it, practiced at least 12 hours a day. How long did it take you to earn that nickel? So there it is. By using the forces around us and the miracles of life we don't see usually. I mean, it's a miracle just to be alive and breathing, and we miss that. We look for psychic things outside of the miracle of ourselves as we are right now. Mm-hmm. It's a miracle just to be alive.
Yeah, I was just reading somewhere, I think it's something like the odds are 400 billion to 1 that, that sperm met that egg at that time and made
you bet.
Yeah, it's amazing. 400 billion to 1. That's crazy. Right?
Those are odds way above the lottery, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Adam.
So it is.
I have to go to the little boys' room. Do you want to take some questions right after that?
Yeah, sure, you bet.
Okay,
Should I just hang on, or should I say something about meridians or something while you're going?
You could do that, or you could just hang on and I can cut it out. It's totally up to you.
Oh, yeah, sure, you can do that. I forget.
Yeah,
editing is so neat, isn't it? Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Hey, I'll go to the boys' room too then.
Okay, perfect.
Meet you in a minute.
Okay, perfect.
In the 1950s, Dr. Joanna Budwig had a 90% success rate curing people of cancer using fresh pressed flax oil and cottage cheese. The combination of dairy protein with unoxidized flax oil was able to restore oxygen transfer. It is now well known the cells of our bodies require unoxidized omega-3 and 6 seed oils to both attract and absorb oxygen. For the first time, there are seed oils with virtually zero oxidation even after 1 year at room temperature. All other, quote, cold-pressed seed oils are structurally damaged and significantly oxidized by the time you consume them. Andrea's seed oils retain the correct shape, electron content, and information that is quickly communicated to all the cells of your body. By taking these sacred seed oils, your whole body will begin to use oxygen as the Creator designed it. Now combine this with our Life Force Enhanced One World Whey protein, and you have a winning combination to confer energy and health like never before. Click on the 5-seed oil banner right here on extremehealthradio.com. That's extremehealthradio.com.
Adam, are you back?
I'm back.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
By the way, Master Chen can turn his pee and poop into chi.
Can he really?
Yeah. You know, one time I picked up a guy at the airport. I was picking people up to take him to the ranch for these workshops. And he told me one time he was out with Master Chen, and he ate a big plate of food, and he ate another big plate of food, and he ate a third plate of food, and he ate a fourth plate of food, and he was on his fifth when my friend was thinking, what the heck is going on? And Chen read his mind and said, I'll use the word crap. He didn't use that word.
Yeah.
I turned it all into chi.
Oh my gosh, how crazy. That's hilarious. That is funny. Oh man. Okay, let's take a couple questions here. We have one from Meredith, and she says, I've always been interested in experimenting with coffee enemas. So Meredith has an issue with hemorrhoids, and she says she's been doing coffee enemas and listening to our shows and reading Gerson therapy and even more. However, after having a child years back, I've always had issues with hemorrhoids, and I'm not sure if it is safe to do coffee enemas. I was curious if you have heard or read anything on the subject of hemorrhoids. Any information or recommendations would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I used to be a super-duper pooper scooper, so I've encountered hemorrhoids in real life, up close. And the problem is a liver problem. The liver uses the portal system to drain. It goes right on through that area. When you clear up your liver, which is usually under stress, during pregnancy, for instance, the liver comes under stress because it has to supply for 2 people. And anyway, cleaning up the liver is the best thing. You know, you can apply aloe and things like that for external help, but ultimately it's a combination of cleaning up the liver. And another thing that will help is take an orange, a whole orange, not the juice, and take it at spleen pancreas time between 9 and 11 in the morning every day.
Say that again, an orange?
Yeah, an orange, a plain old orange, like a citrus orange. And you eat the orange and take it between 9 and 11 every day. At spleen pancreas time is best. Interesting.
And what does that do?
Well, it stops any kind of bleeding that comes out of there. Firms up not only the anal passage but the entire body. It's a very important food for that.
Interesting. What about things like...
Also, it's good for the sex life, libido, because it's the O range, which is the orgasm range.
Okay, we have another question about that.
Orange is a sexual builder. Ducks will mate under it. Bunnies will mate under it. It's not red that's the sexual color. It's actually orange.
Oh, interesting.
And you build bones with orange. you will find the spectroscopic analysis of calcium is in orange. You'll find it in silicon, also important for bone, silica. And also boron is in orange.
So in terms of some of the more traditional things for hemorrhoids, what do you think about like the people do garlic suppositories or witch hazel or sitz baths and things like that, cayenne pepper? What do you think about those types of things? Do they
help, but they're superficial. It doesn't get to the real problem.
Okay.
The real problem is coming from the liver. But those things help. They soothe, aloe, garlic. Garlic sometimes can irritate in some cases, but it actually can help too by constricting those vessels.
Okay.
What people call hemorrhoids are not the actual hemorrhoids, by the way. Hemorrhoids you can't really see. What you're seeing is an embolism. Those are actually embolisms when they're visible, when they're hanging out of the butt. And believe me, I've seen my share of them hanging out of the butt. You're trying to put a 1-inch or a half-inch speculum in someone's butt to give them a colonic. It's a real challenge. And it can be dangerous. So people doing enemas by themselves must be careful that they don't break that hemorrhoid and start bleeding all over the place.
Okay, so they really want to look at liver health for these.
Yeah, liver health is the way to go at it and figure out what's going on. Redo the system, and then the parts of the system will take care of themselves. It's a systemic problem with hemorrhoids generally. Okay, cool. Next question is, let's see, about keloid scars. And let's see, Mikey says, I was listening to one of your most recent podcasts, and you had briefly mentioned that you had a good remedy for keloids, but it had escaped you. I have some keloids for over 15 years. I'm very much interested in this remedy. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Mikey. Keloid scars. Well, they have a lot to do with what a person's eating, and usually it's somewhere in the HUFA or PUFA range. And PUFAs are polyunsaturated fatty acids, and HUFAs are highly unsaturated fatty acids. Because you have to figure out what kind of fat these things are made out of, and basically lipoma means fatty lump. So it's not going to be a structural fat. It's not going to be oleic acid, which is our primary saturated fat in our body, or monounsaturated fat, and stearic acid and palmic acid. It's going to be one of those. So it's something in the diet that the person's either eating out of time or eating the wrong thing too much. We shouldn't eliminate every food from our diet, but we should certainly minimize lots of them. And one thing that will add to that is fish oil, DHA and EPA.
What do you mean? People should eat fish oil, or they shouldn't?
Shouldn't. No. You've heard me talk about yellow fat disease. And let me put it this way, and if you go and look up DHA and EPA on the internet, all you're going to find is good things. Good for your brain, good for the baby, good for this and all. But if you flip the coin and look under the title yellow fat disease or steatitis, and then put in every animal in the book, and you're going to find that EPA and DHA kills these animals over time, including humans. In humans, it calls something called lipofuscinosis, and basically aging spots. Aging is, you can't age without polyunsaturated fatty acids. They have, in very limited amounts, they have an important role to play in the human body, but when we go out and take them in excess, then we end up with keloids problems, with a lot of skin problems and a lot of internal problems too, including polyps.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about something maybe like turpentine or honey, or some of these old remedies, apple cider vinegar, tea tree oil, these types of things? Do they help with keloids, do you think?
They can help externally. I have gotten rid of what possibly was a melanoma by just putting castor oil on it.
Oh, castor oil.
And I got rid of 2 moles. I used to have 2 moles at the bottom of my jaw on the right side, and they had hair growing out of it and everything. And so I went and got cheap castor oil, because I didn't know anything about the Edgar Cayce castor oil at that time.
Right.
Even though I wasn't Edgar Cayce, I didn't know much about his health things. So I just bought plain old castor oil. They went away in 2 days, and the hair grew out for another 5 or 6 years. Then the hair just stopped out. Now I can't even, for years I could see the bump where they were. I could see these used to be moles, and they were just kind of raised a little. Now I can't find a trace of them.
Wow, castor oil is
so powerful. Those external types of things, of turpentine and things like that, can be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah, castor oil is so powerful. Okay, so let's see. Next question is, I just want to ask a few of these questions because people write them in a lot, and I think it's important to answer people's questions. Matt from England, 39 years old. He found out about us about a year ago. He says, I've been lifting weights and exercising for most of my life. He eats more of a paleo-type diet, but has been noticing a drop in his libido for the past few years. I want to increase testosterone naturally. How can I do this? Do I need HGH, or do I get a blood test? Any information? So it sounds like a young guy trying to increase his libido and testosterone.
The orange is one place to start. And libido, you can have low testosterone and have high libido. Testosterone is one of the things involved, but a lot of things are involved. We have two systems. One, the system of what's often called oxytocin. That is activated by hugging a person. Mm-hmm. The other one is dopamine, which is of the imagination. When you have a fantasy or a pornographic picture in front of you, mm-hmm. you activate the dopamine system. Well, both of those have to be in working order, so you want to keep your dopamine system and your oxytocin system. One of the ways to do that is eating on time, and another thing is to do exercises that work on the legs, squats. In fact, better than Viagra, and Viagra has serious side effects, by the way. Mm-hmm. Better than Viagra is do squats on a regular basis, and then do thigh extensions and thigh. What's the other word? Where you close them. I'm not thinking of the word like a clothespin. Or the horse riding muscles.
Uh huh.
You know, you work out at a gym. What do you call that exercise?
Yeah, it's like where you're sitting down and your legs are going out and then back in. Is that correct?
Yep, you're bringing them back in. And for some reason, I'm not thinking of the word.
I can't remember
Extension's the other one, and those are the ones that work on you're basically, the ones that close up are your inner muscles that tie into the thyroid and the triple heater meridians, by the way, when you do that.
Uh-huh.
On the outside, the fascia lata and those muscles work for the other exercise. Yeah. Those three have had better results than Viagra, and Viagra has serious side effects because nitric oxide is not your friend, and you're going to hear it over and over, that red light that actually makes nitric oxide. It does not. It destroys nitric oxide. That's why it works so effectively.
Yeah, it would make sense, the squats, because I've heard from working out many years that that's the biggest sort of single muscle group in the body, and it creates the most testosterone. And when you're squatting down, also you're improving the strength of your pelvic floor as well, and there's something to that as well, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
Again, they often call those the core body exercises.
Okay, right. Okay.
And by the way, vegetarians sometimes can be the horniest of all. They have the highest sex urge. So it depends on what a person means by paleo. Paleo meant a lot of things. You know, if you went to the South Sea Islands, they were eating nothing but potatoes. They only ate meat once in a while an occasional human being, for dessert. But it was all potatoes.
Yeah.
Most of the blue zones are vegetarians. And particularly what causes problems is people in ketosis. Fortunately, there has never been a ketotic diet until recently. No one, even the Inuits, were not in ketosis because they ate the sugar out of the liver called glycogen, 100 times stronger than sugar.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, hopefully that helps. Does he give his name? He didn't give his name about the low libido. Oh, Matt. Yeah, Matt from England. Okay, so the next question is, let me get this pulled up here. Next question is it's kind of long, so I'm going to read it, but his name's Lawrence, and it's kind of a long question, but he says some good things in here about lipomas. And he says, "Hi, Justin. I'm trying to keep the hope that I can find something to at least stop these new lipomas from forming and haven't had much success yet. There doesn't seem to be any real treatments other than to cut them out. I am currently working with one of the doctors who was shown on The Truth About Cancer to help with these lipomas, and he has had success with other people in eliminating them, which is downright a miracle to most people who have these things. But so far, 45 days into the 90-day protocol, there's been no shrinking. The protocol involves drinking seed oils, main ingredient being black cumin seed, as well as grape seed and black raspberry seed oil, as well as a green smoothie with black cumin seed and other greens. Then I detox in the relaxed sauna every day, as well as take specific detox supplements that contain zeolite. Both are a part of the protocol. And then he says, finally, I am thinking of purchasing a hydrogen water generator next. My theory is that the hydrogen will get into the lipomas and cause them to become apoptotic. Probably won't work, but it's worth a try. I was thinking of getting Echo 2 water machine for this. Have you had, and then he asks about a guest if we've had on the show. Really like your show and your responsiveness to your listeners. Keep up the good work. Okay, so it sounds like he's trying a lot of different things for these lipomas. What are your thoughts about this?
Yellow fat disease, and those very oils he's taken are going to promote them.
Oh, really?
Yep, unfortunately, especially any flax oil, any cannabis oil, and any chia oil. Those are the worst offenders. Some of the other ones, as long as you take them in moderation, they're not going to cause a problem. But lipomas, you have to analyze, what are they made out of? They're not made out of palmic acid. They're not made out of oleic acid. They're made out of polyunsaturated fatty acids. So it stands to reason, if you want to get rid of something, you have to stop taking it. But instead, people are told to take the very thing that it's composed of. Yeah. Same with atherosclerosis. There's very few saturated fats in the atherosclerosis or the arteriosclerosis. It's actually your polyunsaturated oils that end up there. And age spots, lipofuscinosis, is almost entirely, with some exceptions, made of polyunsaturated fatty acids. The worst ones are the most volatile ones, which are the omega-3 category. The omega-6 you can pretty well get away with, even though people like Ray Peter are totally against them. Mm-hmm. I think, I don't see, it's really hard to get yellow fat disease with an omega-6 oil, except soy oil is one exception to the rule.
Interesting. So the black cumin seed, what does he say?
That's not, I think that's more saturated than some of the oils. So it's, I don't think it's going to do much good for lipomas. Basically, you're bringing a teacup to an ocean to try and take care of it in that case. So it's more like an overall dietary change. Eating on time helps, but not necessarily. It's if you look at so-called primitive societies like the Maoris and the Eskimos, mm-hmm. What are they eating and why didn't they have these? Why did not the Eskimos have a single case of cancer? And it's not because they were taking seed oils. They didn't even have seed oils up there very much. They ate mostly blubber and things.
I was going to say,
caribou.
Wouldn't they have a lot of oils in the meat they ate, though?
In the meat, saturated fats. And they knew that if they ate entirely fish, they would die. In fact, this is clearly written in a book by Farley Mowat called People of the Deer. He was an expert in the Inuit. And I'm using Inuit as like a person who's not an Indian and doesn't know the different tribes and everything like that.
Right, general term.
But the Inuit is my general word for it at this point. Okay. You can call them Eskimos or whatever. There were lots of people, and they even had burial mounds up there made out of stone where they buried ice kings and ice queens. We don't hear about that. We think that we're like primitive people. Go back to a 1921 edition of Popular Mechanics, and you'll see when they were discovering these tombs and things that they are not telling us about. Mm. Right in Popular Mechanics, go right on the internet.
It's interesting. What are your thoughts about it?
Anyway, the primitive societies, when you see things like this happening in people's bodies, think additives, think the wrong type of diet and the wrong type of oils, but also the additives. We have more additives in GMO materials. Do you know if you get an algae DHA, you're getting a GMO product that was created by NASA in conjunction with Martin Marietta?
Wow.
All of them. They're all GMO, DHAs and EPAs. All of them. Check it out. You can go to the NASA site and see about the miracle that they developed. And they're putting in baby food when it's known that DHA shrinks your brain, doesn't grow it.
What are your thoughts about his thing with the Relax Far Infrared Sauna and the zeolite and the hydrogen water? What do you think about all that?
Sauna's good. The hydrogen water, I don't think much of. I just stick to plain old distilled water. Mm-hmm. Except I don't drink my distilled water plain. I simply put something in it, like juice. Like last night when I had my pineapple juice, it's 2/3 filled with distilled water, 1/3 with pineapple juice, so I activate it.
Okay.
Distilled water will not take minerals out of your body. Unless you drink a lot of it, it can actually take enough minerals out of your mouth to cause a little upset, but it's a temporary thing. As long as you're getting your minerals and things from food, it's not going to hurt you. But I learned from Swami Nitty Gritty to always activate it. Many of these special waters, alkaline and stuff like that, they really don't do that much. We structure water with our mind. Mm-hmm. If you have water in your body, it's about 90% structured, and only in between, in what they call the exclusion zone, so that you can have an electric charge to power your cells, do you have a non-structured water. Mm-hmm. In fact, many waters outside of the body are partially structured to a greater or lesser degree, but the most important thing about a structured water is, can your body structure it or not? If it can't, you turn to water. Mm. And then you get edema. If you take a healthy person, even though they're 70% water, if I put them in a vise and squeeze everything, where's the water? Nothing comes out. It's like getting all the water out of Jell-O. It's a totally fourth state of water that our brain makes. Now, if someone says, I'm drinking structured water, tell them, okay, how come it's liquid? It should be in a colloid. So you're not drinking structured water. You're drinking plain old water. Otherwise, it would be like Jell-O. You would be eating the water if it was structured.
That's
right?
Interesting. Yeah. So what are your thoughts about anything, like you said, zeolite? Is there anything he could put on the lipomas externally that could help?
Aloe. Aloe comes to mind.
Okay.
That's one of the best things. It works for a variety of things, and they're even trying now, because they have a competitive product, to claim that aloe causes cancer. Go to Wikipedia and you'll see that kind of nonsense.
Oh my goodness.
Now, it's a good thing to take the middle part of the aloe, because the outer part of it is a good laxative, almost too good a laxative. So I don't advise people do that, but just grow an aloe plant in your backyard, like we do, and it's used for all kinds of healing purposes. It's almost a panacea.
Wow. Okay, final question here. Final question from John Potvin from Papua New Guinea. Pretty cool. He says, it talks about nail fungus, and he says, hi, Justin, I've just read your information here and asking for a medicine that could cure nail fungus on the big toe of his right foot. It's been there for about 6 months. Please identify a medicine that I will buy. That's funny.
It's an immunity problem. The person must take care of their immunity. It's not a sugar problem. It's not anything of that nature. It's an immunity problem. But for the immediate situation, what you could do is cut a lemon in half and stick your big toe in the lemon. And that can often kill the immediate infection, but know that if it's in the big toe, it's elsewhere too, and something must be done to build the immunity. Red light's a good start.
Oh, yeah, red light. What about things like, do you think DMSO or any of these types of maybe some herbs, are there anything you can put on the...
Externally, yes, DMSO. You have to be careful, because actually we're not allowed to have a DMSO that's actually medical grade. We're only allowed the pharmaceutical grade, and so there might be toxins in it. And with DMSO, you have to be careful about anything that is on your skin at the time goes in the skin with the DMSO. But DMSO, for especially an emergency situation or where you're not going to be using it often, then use the pharmaceutical grade. What the heck?
Okay, right.
I don't like to buy DMSO in plastic. Guess what? All that plastic is going in your skin along with the DMSO, so make sure it's in a glass bottle.
Yeah, we just got some recently.
Preferably a brown one.
Yeah, that's exactly what we got just recently, a brown bottled glass.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what you do. They sell so much DMSO in plastic bottles. If it absorbs like that, it's common sense. Guess what? Even distilled water will take plastic out of the bottle. What will DMSO do? My God.
I know,
It's like
right?
taking a plastic supplement.
Yeah. What about, now I've heard things like Pau d'Arco, ozone, maybe MMS. I've heard a lot of these sort of, or maybe oxygen. Are there any things that else that you could put topically on a fungal infection like this, do you think?
Only one you mentioned there, and it's very powerful, Pau d'Arco. The tea, yes. That will kill just about anything. And it's a morning food normally. If you're going to drink it in SunSync Nutrition, you would take it in the morning. But as a medicine, use it any time of day. Yeah, Pau d'Arco. I read a syndicated column by a medical doctor I used to read to get angry at him because he was against all kinds of holistic health. Well, someone asked him, what do you think about Pau d'Arco? He said, it must work because I brew it up, pour it in a bucket of water, and keep all the fungus out of my basement all the time. So if it works in the basement, it's obviously going to work in your human body.
Oh,
so anyway, Lapacho, Pau d'Arco, the various forms of it. If it's legitimate tea, if they're really giving you the real thing, then yes, it's a very powerful immunity builder from the inside. Take it in the morning and apply it any time of the day otherwise. And also then expose yourself to red light as well.
Red light. And then what came to mind is antifungals like, do you think oregano or coconut oil, these types of things, do you think they would be good?
They can work. Some of those oils work. Always remember when you take those oils internally, they do have side effects.
Okay.
Again, it's an oil. It's a volatile oil, a very volatile oil. But they do have effects. Yes, I would try several things. Oregano oil, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like this question here with the fungus and the lipoma are both sort of, I mean, you can work on them both internally and externally because it's really a systemic diet internal issue as well, right?
Systemic was, as within, so without. So you're going to get things in your skin. In fact, the skin, as Bernard Jensen and a lot of people have reminded us in the past, famous naturopaths, the skin shows what your colon is doing, how many endotoxins, how many so-called leaky gut syndromes and problems like that. The thing is, where does the gut leak? Well, it leaks into the capillary system, and that ends up in your skin. Also, the sun, if you get both the infrared and the regular light in small doses, not too much because the sun can knock out your immune system, this is very healing to everything from eczema to psoriasis to you name it. It works on numerous skin problems. But still, death begins in the colon, they say. I prefer to call it life begins in the colon because the colon is, think of it like a caterpillar that turns into the butterfly. The colon, it looks like a caterpillar, and the brain has the butterfly bone in front of it and the very butterfly spread of the brain. Mm-hmm. The brain depends on the gut, as people who talk about the Dantian will remind us.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much, Adam, for sharing your thoughts about these. So what's new? What's going on with SunSync Nutrition, SolarTiming.com? What do you got in the works there?
I'm writing another book on color to go with the color recycling book because people have said, well, you're telling me all the psychological things about color and what's wrong with it. Let's talk about the healing aspects of color. So I'm writing a book on that right now, and it's very fascinating because color is a very important thing in our lives.
Yeah, color.
And you can read about it, some of my latest blogs on SunSync, where I keep an ongoing amount of blogs, at least 10 a month, and last month I think I had about 27 blogs up there.
Whoa, you're writing
because you're a SunSync subscriber, so feel free, go on there. There's a lot of stuff. And remember, we have a search engine where you can go and find just about anything. Also, if you want to learn about mesmerism or about that guy holding their breath, it's right in there. I haven't put that any other place. And
wow.
I have about maybe 40 blogs on mesmerism and hypnotism where I went into a detailed history of it. and how it's been covered up and watered down by people who found that it was embarrassing to the medical society. You know, guess who a famous mesmerist? Lafayette, the guy during the Revolution, remember?
Yeah.
He was a well-known mesmerist. We don't hear about that in history. What about Charles Dickens, another gung-ho mesmerist? There are a whole lot of famous people who we are not told were mesmerists, and we're healing people left and right by using no external remedy except the mind.
That is so cool. In Adam's Sunsync Nutrition, if you guys are interested in this, it's pretty cool. He's got color therapy, and you've got a whole thing on color therapy and the research, and you do all the citations, which is really cool, because a lot of times when you're on shows, it's hard to cite everything that you're talking about, but you put all this in there. And then you have an exercise list, a food list, and then you have your solar time calculator, which I think is really cool because you can really dial in exactly where you are in the world by putting in your time zone, your longitude, your latitude, and all that stuff. You have some cool things in here.
Thanks. Also, I have about a 30 blog series on The Heart is Not a Pump, which is will go good with. Dr. Cowan doesn't realize that he's reinvented the wheel. It was done by Dr. Rodeman way before him. But he's accurate. Your interview with Cowan was really very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoyed it. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy, but his work is piggybacked off of somebody else, you said?
Well, he doesn't. I don't even know. He's never mentioned Dr. Rodeman, and Dr. Rodeman had a much more sophisticated explanation, because there's not structured water. You can run. If it was structured water, it would be Jell-O going up there. Something Dr. Cowan has missed there. As great as he is, but what he tells people to do for their heart, that's valid. It doesn't matter that he's got a different explanation than I do. Or the nitric oxide thing, he's for nitric oxide, and of course, I regard it as a dangerous substance. Just like if you're a dynamite handler, they tell you to wear gloves because the nitroglycerin, which is actually less strong than nitric oxide, will come right through the paper of the dynamite, get in your hand, and kill you. So if dynamite through paper can kill you, imagine why we don't want nitric oxide and why the body has systems that break it down. And one of the ways to help the system is red light. You know, they tell you Philips is selling a blue light therapy, and they say it's because of the nitric oxide. Well, somebody's lying here. Either Philips is lying because the blue light and red light don't both make nitric oxide. One of them is wrong.
Wow.
Or less right than the other. Let's get credit here.
Yeah.
You know, there's no wrong. In other words, you will find people living and being healthy off of things that aren't supposed to work, like a man who eats airplanes and things like that. So I'm not going to criticize any other way. And if someone has another way to do it, I'm willing to look at it.
Yeah,
I'm a relativist.
Yeah, because we're always learning new things, right? I mean, there's so many different aspects to health and nutrition and diet. On our Facebook site, I just put in there the other day, I was just curious how people identify themselves. And I don't like to label, what people eat, but for lack of a better way to do this, I was just curious what kind of diets people eat. And so I said, if you had to label yourself, what kind of diet would you be eating? And there's a couple people in there that said Sunsync Nutrition. I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, because some people say paleo.
The timing really does work. And for people that want to lose weight, it's especially, some people can triple their calories and lose weight. Now, here's the thing. Nothing works for everything. If someone says, my system is 100%, forget it. Walk the other way. And the same thing with Sunsync. It's not going to cure everything. But it works for a lot of people. It works better than a lot of other systems for a lot of people. And the timing really, with all the research now on circadian rhythms and how that works, I mean, the whole blue light thing is off of circadian rhythms. Mm-hmm. But we have a food clock that can actually override the blue and red light clock, too. That isn't, usually told, and an exercise clock and a sex clock even that can time us.
Ah, that's interesting.
We'll save the sex clock for another show.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And the exercise clock.
Yeah, I'm just perusing your site here. It's, you know, you got superfoods, parasite cleansers for everyday use, so things you can take every day. Powerful healing combinations of foods like general morning detox, which you describe as lemon juice, grade B maple syrup, and a small amount of cayenne between 9 and 11 a.m., which is spleen and pancreas time. You have some really cool stuff in here.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into it, and we have a partner who lives in Wisconsin that actually is from India, and the company is actually an Indian company.
Oh, really?
So we're going international here.
Hey, I'm just looking at your exercise list in the SunSync Nutrition members area, and I see all the pictures of the people doing their different poses and things. I wanted to ask you finally one final question before we leave. What are your thoughts about, like, I do Qigong, but then every now and then I do the Qigong program that we talk about on our show, but then I also do the 5 rites. What are your thoughts about the 5 rites?
They work. I do a version of that I learned from Swami Nitty Gritty, which somehow I may have to put that up visually. It's hard to explain. Because back in the day, I knew Patrick Flanagan a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
And he was teaching 7 exercises at the time that he learned from a Sufi master, I believe. So we went to Swami Nitty Gritty with that, and he said, I can show you 5. And he called them the basic 5. And you do these exercises, and they work on all the meridians. And once you can hold each pose for 4 minutes at a time, and it would involve, since one pose involves one side and the other side, that would be 6 times 4, 24 minutes. Once you can hold them for that long without what's called screaming, in other words, you start shaking doing those, then you have extra control over the mind and the body by doing that, and your health.
So were those 5 similar to the 5 rites, or are they a little bit different?
It's similar. The first one, you're just putting your hands on your hip and the first one actually, you're dropping forward with your feet together and holding your palms out. And the second one, you're leaning back with your hands on your back and you toss your head back as far as possible. The third one, you're on your knees and you lean back and grab the heels of your feet while holding that position. And the fourth, you lean forward and go to one side, and then you go to the other side. And the fifth one, you form a triangle by having your legs spread with your hands together, and the palms form another triangle on the floor, and you hold that, and if you want to lose weight, you rock while you do that. These exercises are amazing for balancing your energy before you do Qigong, before you do yoga, before you do sports, before you do baseball, anything like that. They keep you from getting injuries.
Oh, that is so
All
cool.
the meridians are stimulated, and the entire muscular system is as well.
Well, that would be really good for people that engage in like heavy-duty sports or hiking or some sort of thing where they could get injured. That would be really helpful.
Yep. Eventually, we'll set some kind of a video up with those, because the basic 5 I find very useful.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, Adam, I think it's time I'm going to grab a little bite to eat. I haven't eaten yet today, so I'm going to go grab a bite to eat and have my morning breakfast.
We're late on breakfast, too. In fact, Vibrant Gal is just bringing out, let's see, she's got chirimoyas and apples and avocado and all the requisite nuts. She's already eaten, so she's ahead of me.
Oh, man, that sounds good stuff.
All at the farmer's market. You know, we're really lucky to be in California. We get everything at the farmer's market. I haven't been in a restaurant or a supermarket for 2 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
But you can eat SunSync Nutrition even at McDonald's if you choose to do that. You know, the timing is even more important than what we're doing. But what is also important?
Yeah, so when you combine the two, I mean, it becomes much more powerful, and that's what's awesome.
Much more.
Yeah, some of these diets alone are super great, but then when you combine it with proper timing and work with the body systems,
it makes a big difference. Yeah. I mean, look at a nut. It has like a walnut, looks like a human brain, and you eat it in the morning when the nut grows on the tree, and the kidney bean grows in the midway, and the carrot for your genitals. In fact, the secret to libido is in the root vegetables, and even the fish. Fish are not your perfect food, but if you want to get sexy, and they've known about this for hundreds of years, eat fish. If you want to be strong, eat meat, but if you want to be sexy, eat fish.
I like it.
So there is a purpose for fish oil when you want to get your lady pregnant or something like that. Potency.
So many good things to learn. Well, thanks, Adam.
Especially a salmon that fights upstream. The ones that they raise now in captivity, they don't have much vitality.
That makes sense. Yeah, the ones that fight to get upstream, that would make a lot of sense.
Even the salmon now get yellow fat disease. What is that about? Salmon are not supposed to get yellow fat disease from eating unsaturated fats. What's going on here?
Yeah. Amazing stuff. Well, hang on the line there, Adam. I'm just going to close out the live or the show real quick. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks for being a part of our show. And thank you for your emails and everything that you do with us and for us. We really appreciate it. Let me just make sure I get this correct on the show. This is episode 512. So if you want the link over to Adam's websites and all that good stuff, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/512, and you'll be able to catch everything on that page. That will be the show page for this particular show. So thanks again for joining us. If you know of anyone that might find this kind of talk and this kind of information interesting, then feel free to pass the show on to them. Adam would appreciate it. We would appreciate it. You can share it on Facebook or any other social media channel. That would be amazing, and we would all appreciate that and help as many people as we possibly can. So thank you guys for joining us. We love you, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity, and I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi, you need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. Well, there you go, Mr. Adam Bergstrom. What did you guys think about that show? Interesting guy, right? Adam Bergstrom is one of my favorite people. I just love talking to him. He's got so many unique ideas and perspectives about things that I just think are really fascinating and really, you don't really hear his perspective a lot. And I would encourage you guys to check out Sunsync Nutrition if you're interested in trying something that may be a little bit different and a little bit unique in terms of what you've tried before. Because most every diet, as you well know, focuses primarily and 100% on what you consume, how much, and what you don't consume, and how much, and all of that. But what Adam's talking about, and it makes sense, is the time of when you eat these things. So in ancient Chinese medicine, it's known that there are certain circadian rhythms and body timings of organs. And so the organs all have their own time, and they'll talk about, the liver will squeeze and detox and be more active during the, hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. And there's a time for every organ that's known in Chinese medicine. And then what he's saying is that there's also a time in, in the natural world, that we should be consuming foods. And so foods that receive the light of the day of the sun first, those would be foods that are high up on the trees, and typically those are like fruits and things. And so the angle that the sun hits those fruits and vegetables and things corresponds to the time in which we should eat them. And so, I mean, it makes sense. If you were to combine that with Chinese medicine, with the timing of your organs, and he seems to be, put a lot of good information out there about that. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd highly recommend just check it out, sunsyncnutrition.com. Fascinating guy. I like Adam a lot. He's just a friend of our show. He's been on the show a ton of times. I really like the work that he does, and he's just got a great energy, a great spirit about him. We had a handful of people write in and just say, I love anytime Adam is on the show because he gives me so much hope, and he's got such a great positive vibe and aspect to him, and I just love listening to him because my day is always filled with more positive energy when I listen to Adam. And so I like Adam a lot too. One of these days we'll meet him in person, but he's doing some cool stuff. And so let me just let you guys know too. Let me bring this up. We have a lot of cool shows coming up. We've got Corey Yelland from Cannabis Oil. Wait a second here. Let me see. Cannabis Oil Radio, I think it is. Curing cancer and helping with health conditions. I think she has Cannabis Oil Radio. Dr. Ruben Nyman is going to be coming up this month. We're going to be talking about sleep. He wrote a book called The Yoga of Sleep, and he talks about sleep and dreams. Let's see, Carolyn Dean, we're going to be talking with her. It says here, Total Body Meltdown. I'm not sure what that is about. I forgot when we reached out to her what she was all about. Carolyn Dean, MD. And then we have Melissa Hennig, and we're going to be talking with her about the raw paleo diet, which, is that right? Yeah, raw paleo. I think her website's rawpaleo.com, and she talks about eating raw meat, and raw animal products, raw vegetable products, raw, everything raw. So it's really an interesting idea. And the cool thing about these different types of diets, if I were to pick a diet that I think would be, in terms of what I eat, if that would be the most beneficial for me, I think eating a raw diet would be the most healthy. But I would include animal foods in that, like raw meat, raw organ meat, and raw butter, raw eggs, those types of things, in small amounts. So if I'm just going out on a limb and guessing here and assuming that I'm in touch with my subconscious and I understand what diet right now would be the best for me, I would think that eating a raw diet for me right now, where it's probably 80% vegetables and 20% animal products, all of it raw, and if I combine that by doing those in time, like Adam Bergstrom says, and food combining properly, and eating with gratitude and eating with being thankful, if I were to combine all of those together, I think that might be the best diet for me right now in my life. It could change, but I just have a hard time doing raw animal products. I could do raw milk. I don't really like doing raw milk. My body doesn't really agree with it. I could do raw eggs, no problem. I could put those into a smoothie, or I can just drink them down Rocky Balboa style. I can do, let's see, what other raw animal products? Raw butter, I've done, stuff like that. Raw cream, that's pretty easy. But raw meat and raw organs, I don't know. It's funny, I feel drawn to do it because I feel like it would be very powerful, but I just haven't done it yet. So maybe after this show with Melissa, she can talk me into making some recipes. I actually have the DVDs from Augenis Vonderplanets, the late great Augenis. with all of his ways of preparing raw food. I should probably watch those and look at his recipes for doing raw meat products. But I don't know. I think there's something powerful in that. And I know eventually I'll be moving in that direction. It takes me a long time. I'm like a big ship. It takes me a long time to change directions. I don't know what it is. I just it just takes me a long time to get into things and to actually change and do stuff like that. So, but I know it's on my radar. It's in my consciousness, and it will happen. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, thanks guys for being a part of everything we're doing. We love you guys, and we're going to be launching, I want to let you guys know really quick, a membership academy that is going to be sort of distilling down all the best information that we get from guests. And we're going to be bringing on different speakers in there to do classes and courses on different ailments. We're going to have an A to Z section where you can get your questions answered by a doctor or a naturopathic person, a physician or nutritionist, where we're going to be answering all of your questions, your health concerns, every month. And we're also going to be doing courses on like different processes in the bodies, like digestion or sleep, or these types of things where we can really dive deeper into a lot of the issues that people have. And so we also have an area of organ systems in the body. So if you really want to focus on your liver, we're going to be doing courses and programs on that, on how to do that and exactly what to do. We're going to have videos, how-to videos, like how to do coffee enemas, how to do like these sort of healing baths that people do, where you can put different substances like clay and charcoal and these different herbs and DMSO and oxygen and things into the bath. And so we're going to be doing lots of really cutting edge stuff in the academy. So if you guys are interested, if that fascinates you, it'll be a place where we can communicate with each other, draw inspiration from one another, go through courses, and really take our health to new levels in a private setting. And so it's going to be a paid for membership community. We're not sure when we're going to launch it yet. Right now it's February or the beginning of March of 2017. I'm suspecting sometime in 2017 we're going to launch it. And we're going to open the doors. And for the first week or so, it's going to be, we're going to offer a huge discount for the first 7 days. And that discount will last the entire time that you are a member. So if you cancel your membership and re-sign up, the price is going to be a lot more. It's going to be a monthly charge. And so it's not going to be exorbitant. It's not going to be crazy, but there will be a charge each month to be a part of the academy. But the reason for that is because it takes a lot of effort and time to put together this information. But one of the things I'm really excited about by doing this, though, is that it's something that I want to do for me, because I'm really interested in taking my health to another level and also having a resource of different doctors and people talk about different issues with health. So, for example, if someone has kidney stones, or if someone has lymphedema, or if someone has headaches, chronic fatigue, it would be amazing to hear a 2 or 3 minute snippet of 5 or 10 different cutting edge doctors talk about all the things that they know about that can help with that particular condition. And that's what we're going to be building. And so it's going to be a great resource for people. And we're going to have the different protocols put in PDF format as well, so you can read them. But it takes a lot of work to do all this. And it's something that I want to do because I want to have a resource like that myself. Where I can really get some great remedies for current health conditions that people have. But we're also going to be doing a lot of other things too. So, I imagine we'll do like maybe cleansing, like 4 times a year we'll do a cleanse and have that overseen by a doctor, and we can go through the cleanse together as a group and talk about what's, how we're doing on it, and support each other and that kind of thing. So if you have any ideas of what you think would be great, let me know. Send me an email. I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions about something that you would want to pay for and something that you think would be great to help you take your health to a new level. So if you have ideas about what we should do, let us know. And we will certainly take them into consideration, because we want to take and create something that is going to be amazing for all of us and something that you'll be excited to join and be a part of. So I think it's going to be really great. After 5 years of doing the show, I think it's time to dive deep and really, really develop solutions in an organized way for people that can really help people And the content too is going to be, some is going to be short form, some is going to be long form. So there'll be short snippets of things that you can listen to, as well as longer lessons and courses and things. So it's going to be great content for all. And we're going to do video and audio as well. So there's going to be all kinds, as well as PDF. So there'll be all kinds of cool stuff there for you. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Let me make sure I get this correct again. This was episode 512. Thank you for visiting our sponsors that we talked about during the show. Thank you for visiting our store. And thanks also for buying through our Amazon link. I don't know if you guys know that you can do this yet, but there's a link on the right-hand side of our website that says Amazon, but below it is some text that you can drag to your desktop. And you only have to do this one time. So if you like our show and you shop on Amazon, even if you don't shop very much on Amazon, if you drag that link, that text link on the right-hand side of our website onto your desktop on a Mac or PC, you only have to do that one time, and that'll create a little icon. And then if you use that icon, you can rename it. And then if you use that icon to make your Amazon purchases, that helps support the show. So we would be super excited if you would do that. It's a great way to support the show without, donating or anything like that. So, but thank you guys who do donate on Patreon and PayPal. You guys are amazing. So thank you for making this work possible for us and helping as many people as we possibly can. So we thank you for that. And also, don't forget to check out our store if you're interested in any cutting-edge health products. We're adding products all the time, unique products that you can get, like lung cleanses. We just added the lung cleanse that I've been doing from Global Healing Center. We added that. We added the Scalar Silver. Let's see, what else did we add? Oh, we added the Raw Chef Fermentation course, which is awesome stuff. The Raw Chef, Russell James, is top notch. So if you want to learn how to ferment foods and start easily adding them to your diet, all kinds of delicious fermented foods, check that out. That's a great course, and you can sign up to as many courses. Then we added the Intramax, which is the best vitamin mineral supplement, 420 ingredients in this liquid vitamin, amazing. We also added recently the Aura Wellness Shine product, which is to help remineralize your teeth and to make your teeth stronger and less cavity resistant. Then we've got the Scalar Energy Rest Shields, the Magnetico Sleep Pads. We've got the ozone generators, organic bedding, CBD oils that we really stand behind, and the Andreas Sacred Seed Oils that bring oxygen to the center of the cell, the Earthing Bed Sheets. We've got the Rapid Release Pro 2, which is a vibrational energy machine to help release trigger points. We've got the EMF Defender Pad. We've got all kinds of really cool stuff. The Vitalizer Plus. Man, we got all kinds of stuff. So thanks for visiting our store. That's enough about that. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being a listener and being a part of what we do. We really appreciate it so much. Let us know if we can ever help you guys. And stay tuned to our next show.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine.